Hi, I'm Dave, and this is Crit Thinking 418. Just checking in. I recently watched a debate between John Lennox and Richard Dawkins, and I thought it was really interesting. I'm not going to overview what I thought of it now, um, but just wanted to bring up one point for now that Richard Dawkins made, and to be a bit critical of it. So Richard Dawkins basically said that it's more believable that a simple material and laws and things like that existed out of nothing or eternally existed compared to a God that is complicated, that cares about us, and all those things. Both are complicated things, but according to Richard Dawkins, a God that cares about our sins and morality and all types of things, as well as created, that's a very complicated thing, more complicated than some universal constants, material, even a multiverse, if it were something of that sort. And so he says that, follows suit. The more complicated something is, the less likely it came out of nothing. But that's a bad argument, because I think what we need to be critical of is that he's basically saying, he's comparing what we know of creating in causation. And so we all know from common experience that if we create something, if it's complicated, it's much harder to do. If it's a simple thing, it's much easier to do. And I think Richard Dawkins is falsely assuming that that's the same thing with things that either eternally existed or came out of nothing. So that's not true. We don't know that to be true. In fact, it possibly could be just as easy for anything to eternally exist or come out of nothing. Or it might be impossible for things to come out of nothing, which is my view. I think something had to eternally exist. And the question is, comes down to it, is does this universe show elements of eternally existing? And there's a lot that says no. So then we go back and say, well, maybe there was a multiverse. Does that show evidence of eternally existing? If the answer is no, then we move to whatever's before that. And so eventually down the line, what are we going to come to? So anyway, Richard Dawkins' argument, that I just explained, is falsely assuming that one principle in a situation applies to another situation and follows suit. But I don't think that's the case. So anyway, just encourage you to keep thinking and to not quit thinking, but start crit thinking.